Welcome back to another episode of ROC Boys football. The fellas are heading to the ACC as a Miami Hurricanes team that started to figure it out on the offensive side of the ball. It goes on the road to Virginia Tech. Two teams that have underperformed this year. A lot of high expectations for this Miami team. And I mean, both programs are going through a little bit of an overhaul. New head coach, Miami, new offensive coordinator. Tyler Van Dyke still trying to adjust to what Josh Gaddis and Mario Cristobal want to do on the offense side of the football. And then a Virginia Tech team that I don't think Coach Pry is the wrong man for the job. He just wants to do stuff that is different from what Virginia Tech wanted to do in the past. They want to play more of a defensive brand. They want to run the football. And I just don't think they have the personnel yet to make that happen effectively. You give that a couple more years, I think Brent Pry will get the guys that he needs to get in order to play that brand of football a little bit more successfully. And this is going to be kind of an interesting game to watch. Before we get into it, though, again, I just want to say thank you guys. The support you guys have shown the channel, really, it's awesome. We appreciate it. So if you do like the content, consider subscribing. More importantly, in the comment section, let us know your picks for the game, players to watch. I love chopping it up about football with you guys in the comment section. Again, last year at this time, we had 50 subscribers. Now we're almost up to 2,000. Largely due to all your guys' support. We appreciate that. Let's start getting into some football. I want to start with this Miami team that we saw probably play their best football they had all year against UNC. Obviously, losing by 3 points. You look at the stats, though, Miami had more offensive yards. What really came down to is turnovers in the red zone. Not like anytime you get first and goal from the one and you don't score a touchdown, you fumble in the red zone. It's really hard to win those football games. And Miami was moving the ball on a UNC defense that is not great. But from a confidence standpoint, you saw Tyler Van Dyke get a little bit more confident with what they're trying to do on offense. And they were moving the ball. And that was probably the best this Miami team has looked on both sides of the football. And largely kind of played this UNC offense that is very explosive pretty well. I mean, Drake May threw 2 interceptions. This one thing Miami does really well is they get some pressure on the quarterback and they force turnovers. And I like Miami in the spot to cover 7.5 points. Virginia Tech, noon, coming off 3 losses where they weren't very competitive. I don't know if you'll see that hostile of an environment in Blacksburg as you're used to. Think back to when West Virginia came on the road to Blacksburg. That place was jumping. That is some of the best environments you'll see in college football. Noon kickoff, coming off of 3 losses. I don't know if you'll see the juice that you're used to seeing in Blacksburg. And one thing I want to talk about with this Miami team, and we talked about it in the summer preview, and it's still a problem, is their wide receivers. I mean, this Miami team wants to find explosives through the passing, and losing Charleston Rambo last year, the question was which wide receiver is going to step up in that passing game, and it seemed to be Xavier Restrepo. And then he goes down with injury, and you look at any guys who have stepped up, Rashard Smith, Keyshawn Smith kind of guys, but your leading pass catcher is Will Mallory, who is an awesome tight end, but he's a tight end. And it's very hard for tight ends to find those explosive plays in the passing game. And Miami has struggled to do that. They haven't really had a wide receiver step up. Frank Ladson was a guy that I was kind of excited for. He hasn't really caught fire yet with Miami. And that still seems to be their biggest hole in that offense is, where's your wide receiver one? Where's the guy when we need to move the chains outside of Will Mallory? Who we going to for a big-time play? Miami hasn't really found that. What they have found, though, and what I'm a little bit optimistic about with this offense is Henry Parrish Jr., the transfer from Ole Miss, has been extremely good. Jalen Knighton, a guy that was kind of the dude last year, obviously fumbled against UNC. Henry Parrish and Jalen Knighton are 2 of the more explosive backs in the ACC. And for an offense that's struggling to find explosive plays through the air, those are 2 running backs that if you can get out in space, they can create some big-time plays for you. And I look for Josh Gaddis. I'm a Michigan fan, so I know quite about what Josh Gaddis wants to do on offense. He wants to get playmakers in space. He always says speed in space, speed in space. And Miami has fast guys. You're looking for them to get them the ball in space and let them go make plays against a Virginia Tech team that's good inside the box and has a very good defense. But athletically, you can challenge them on the perimeter. And I would like to see Miami do that. Now, on the flip side, Virginia Tech going up against the Miami defense that I think is kind of underrated. They've been pretty good against the run, only allowing 3.1 yards per carry. You look at their front 7 and the personnel on this Miami team, they get behind the line of scrimmage and they tackle well. And one of the big questions we had was the linebacker spot. And I think Corey Flagg has looked just about as good as any linebacker in the ACC has. And that's massive for a Miami team that has struggled tackling at the next level for a while now, Corey Flack has seemed to be kind of that linebacker who can go sideline to sideline, get behind the line of scrimmage, and be that tackling machine. I love what they have up front. I mean, Akeem Mesidor coming over from West Virginia has been absolutely awesome. Leonard Taylor continuing to emerge. Jafari Harvey, also a guy that can give you some juice off the edge in terms of pass rush. I don't know how Virginia Tech moves the football against Miami. I think this Miami defense doesn't get enough credit for how tough it is and how physical it is up front. And Virginia Tech's a team that wants to run the football. They just haven't been able to run the football that effectively. And again, you don't want Grant Wells, a guy that has turned the ball over plenty of times, 6 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. You don't want him having to be the guy to win you football games. That being said, it kind of by default has to be him. Outside of Keyshawn King, who's averaging 6 yards a carry, they're getting no traction running the football. I mean, averaging 3.2 yards per carry. Miami's a defense that flies around in the back end. I really do like this Miami secondary. You take a look at some of the guys, Tyreek Stevenson, one of the better cornerbacks in the ACC, James Williams, Keyshawn Kitchens, I believe, has 3 interceptions on the year. They got some really good players in the back end. And Grant Wells is a quarterback that hasn't really taken care of the football, and Miami's forcing 2 turnovers a game on the defense side of the ball. I expect turnovers here, and I expect Miami to score some points with a offense that has been stagnant at times. But just off the eyeball test, Miami has looked significantly better than this Virginia Tech team. You go back to that Texas A&M game, you could make an argument that they were the better team. And again, red zone offense, settling for field goals, missing field goals, not scoring points when you get inside the opponent's territory. That's kind of plagued Miami. They probably win that game on the road if they have a little bit of better offense when they get down into the red zone, when they get those scoring opportunities. This is a Virginia Tech team that I just don't see scoring enough points. And getting to the pick, Miami coming in at 7.5-point favorites. I expect Miami to score around 30 points. This Virginia Tech defense started off the season pretty well, only allowing 10 points and 7 points to Wofford. But lately, 33 to West Virginia, 45 to a Pitt offense that really just wants to run the football. They're not trying to score a lot of points. And they let up 45 points, and Israel Abikanda ran all over that defense. And that's something that Virginia Tech prides itself on, being a tough team up front. I think Miami's going to be able to find some success surrounding the football. And I think they're going to be able to find some success with Tyler Van Dyke finally seeming to hit his stride in this offense. Miami probably scoring 30 to 35 points. I don't really see Virginia Tech scoring over 20. I think Miami gets the cover pretty easily. And if you're looking for a pick on the over-under, I'm probably going with the over as well, just because this Miami team is starting to hit a stride on the offense side of the ball. Again, they only scored 24 points against UNC. That number probably should have been around more like 35. I mean, again, not scoring touchdowns when you're inside the 5, unacceptable. Mario Cristobal kicking too many field goals. Again, when you're playing college football, you should be kicking many field goals outside of 50 yards, especially if it's like 4th and 5. You have one of the best quarterbacks in the ACC in Tyler Van Dyke. Lean on him. Let him go win you football games. I think Mario Cristobal kind of has some scar tissue with Anthony Brown and how good that Oregon defense was last year when he was at Oregon, kind of leaning on that defense. It's a different story here. You have one of the better quarterbacks in the country in Tyler Van Dyke. Let him go win you football games. And I think he's starting to get used to that a little bit more. And again, I think this Miami team, they started off slow with a lot of preseason expectations. It's still a very talented roster. They've recruited well. They have the talent. They just got to put it together. Again, you're adjusting to a new OC, to a new head coach, and this head coach likes to play a different style than we saw previous Miami coaches. I think they will figure it out. They're going on the road to a Virginia Tech team that is lost. They don't really have an identity. They can't run the football that well. Their quarterback is not a guy you want to lean on. Defense is okay, but it hasn't been great lately. I think this Miami team scores some points. I struggle to see this Virginia Tech team scoring that many points. I think turnovers are going to be a factor. Miami minus 7.5. I think this pick makes a lot of sense. Probably one of my favorite picks on the early slate here. Again, we appreciate you guys checking us out. If you like the content, again, consider subscribing. We really do appreciate all the support. That means a lot to the fellas. Go Canes on Saturday. Cover that 7.5. Peace.